Hi, everyone. It's Sarah, the host of Unmuzzled, a podcast. I'm just begging StreamYard again to please change that countdown music because I can't. It's like putting my viewers and listeners to sleep. It's awful. It used to be so good. It was like, let's go. And now it's like, I'm going to go to sleep. Pet food is... People are throwing things at you. There's these big companies that throw marketing at you, and there's these smaller companies that are doing amazing. We are going to meet the founder of a new kibble company called, I shouldn't say kibble, dog food company called Kibbies coming up. Matthew Anderson is going to be here. Before we get there, presenting sponsors, you're up. Thank you so much to our presenting sponsors. Yutka Fence is a family-owned, trusted provider of high-quality fencing solutions with over 57 years of experience. They take pride in protecting what you love the most and give back to rescues, shelters, and humane societies through their partnerships. They give you a free, no-obligation estimate and use the highest quality materials. For transparency and peace of mind, visit Yutka Fence for all your fencing needs. Canine Cruise is the place to take your pet. They offer dog and cat boarding, dog daycare, pet retail, and mindful day school. Tons of indoor space with a huge yard. Canine Cruise is your one-stop shop for professional pet care in Chicago. Kiki's Korner Natural Pet Foods in downtown Winfield, just a block south of CDH Hospital and the railroad tracks. Kiki's has all your food and health aid needs for dogs and cats. Kiki's Korner for a healthy, happy pet. Sniffing out a new vet? Bond Vet is a new breed of vet care that offers everything from primary care to walk-in urgent care visits. And right now, they've got a special treat for our listeners. You can use code UNMUZZLED to get $50 off your pet's first visit by booking at bondvet.com. That's code UNMUZZLED at BONDVET.com for $50 off. Thank you, sponsors. I love you. I appreciate you. Matthew, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Doing great, Sarah. Great to be here.
Yes. So first of all, I love talking to business owners. I started a nonprofit and then I started a pet care business. And I think that people that have never done that, like started a business, don't understand what you go through to get to, and there's never a finish line because you're constantly trying to improve, build your business, build your clientele, make millions, all of that. So I know that this started with probably a personal experience and you wanted to make things better. So tell us how Kibbies came to be.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a background in entrepreneurship. Used to work in the marketing side of things with a few technology startups. And then I moved into human wellness. So helped launch a few brands for endurance supplements for humans, and then liquid multivitamins, actually a multivitamin wellness company for humans. Learned a lot about bioavailability, nutrition, vitamins, minerals through that in the human body. Throughout this whole journey as an entrepreneur, like you said, how difficult it can be. My dog, his name is Future Man, has always been my best friend. Happily together about 13 years now, but about 5 years ago, he started to get very sick. So he started to develop a lot of tumors in short succession. It was very confusing for me and led me to research really intently how dog food is made. Really, for the first 7 years of his life, I don't know how proud of this I am, but I just kind of bought the food that someone I knew with a dog recommended to me and really never thought twice about it until he started to get sick. That's when I started researching how dog food's made and realized that it's just really such a stretch to call it food, quite honestly, and set out on a journey to try and make something better.
Yeah, I'm coming off of a podcast about farm animals and just, how much I've grown as far as, not eating farm animals. and I grew up in the middle of Pennsylvania in farm country, but it's the same as when, you're little and you have a pet and you literally put the kibble out. And again, this is what we can afford. We can't afford, so that's part of this whole thing. But, you have to make it a little bit affordable for people. But what is the biggest problem with this overly processed food? And then I want to talk about what your product is. But I think, when you see, and, it's the same with my small business. I don't have a huge marketing team. Same with my nonprofit. Yeah. I don't have this huge marketing team to throw things at people. And, a lot of people, unfortunately, are influenced by what they see, and not just on TV anymore, obviously by social media. But what is the biggest problem, do you think, with this over-processed and almost like oversaturated food? Because it's just what people see, in the aisles of the grocery store and on TV as well.
Yeah, well, I think a few things I'd want to hit on there. I think you hit on people are buying or want to buy generally the best food they can afford. So I'm not someone who would ever want to shame someone for buying what may be a lower quality food if it's the best food that they can afford. I don't think there's any reason those people shouldn't and don't and can't love their dogs well. One thing I realized, though, is you also mentioned farm animals. Dog food companies were born out of livestock food companies. And so in the big industry of dog food production, there is still a mentality of how do we make food for livestock, which are animals that we have a very different mindset about how we feed, right? That's all about food efficiency. Whereas our companion animals, our dogs, for me specifically, have become so much more than how I would view livestock on a farm, for example. Just the nature of the bond deserves, I think, a better quality food. I think because we've seen such a livestock feed mentality, which has its own problems in that sector, we have recently, much like we've done in humans in recent years, dogs are living longer than ever, but their quality of life, particularly towards the end of their lives, is degrading much quicker or slower, actually. So they're living prolonged, lower quality of lives. Something like the average dog across all breeds will now live to be about 12 years old, I think like 11.6 or 7 years old. But 50% of dogs that live over the age of 10 are getting cancer. I just think it's very problematic that we've figured out how to use modern science and pharmaceuticals and processing innovation to keep dogs alive longer. Yet literally half of dogs that live over the age of 10 will get cancer. And so the alternative is fresh, raw, homemade, natural food diets, which have a lot of issues in their own right. Again, when they're done well, I think they're a great option. And if listeners are doing those diets well with the support of nutritionists, don't stop if your dog's doing well. But for me as a dog owner, I didn't want to feed my dog this processed food that has very questionable powdered ingredients used by them, just badly treated leftovers that get powdered and pumped through into the food. And then the lifestyle and cost of fresh food that I'd have to keep in my freezer and then thaw and then drop off with a cooler and ice packs, while it would cost $400 a month for my dog, just wasn't a viable option for me either.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I think too, what people think is, oh, it's too late. Like I already put all of this into my dog. They're, affected because of what I did in the past. And it really never is too late. Like you can make a turn for your pet.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's like the human side. Like if a human was 60 years old and only ate chicken nuggets for their whole lives, would you tell them not to try and start eating salads? It's not too late. And so I'm glad to see that. And we have a lot of anecdotal evidence too of dog owners who are seeing renewed energy, skin conditions clearing up, poops are getting healthier again, right? And I don't want to pretend like we're making the best food for every single dog in the world for budget reasons and lifestyle reasons and dogs' particular genetic reasons. Like there will be some dogs that do better on other foods, but it's really encouraging to see that even older dogs, middle-aged dogs switching to Kibbies are seeing some of these issues clear up. Reminder, it's just really never too late.
Yeah, and things as simple as skin can really drive an owner crazy. I get so many questions just because of my rescue background and seeing dogs that are filled with mange or have allergies. So many people try everything, diet, medications, creams, everything. And something as simple as skin getting cleared up for an owner is just so satisfying. I mean, to be able to change that with diet and what you're putting in your dog is incredible. Okay, so take us into trying to create this and how you did it, because I love to hear down to I was, mixing or, and I assume you have
Yeah.
a team with you, but how did this all start and how did you get then to what is now Kibbies?
Yeah, so it was about 3 years ago, and I realized that almost all dry dog food is just made from powdered ingredients. They may have one whole ingredient in the actual food, which is not what I want for my dog. So I started I had this idea of making a dry food. So it has the convenience and the safety and the affordability more on the dry end of the food spectrum. Yet it's made with all whole ingredients, a wide variety of whole ingredients that the actual nutrient and flavor profile of the real ingredients is what shines through to the dog rather than synthetic coatings or synthetic powders. So I started calling all the manufacturers I could find that made dog food, explaining the concept that I was after. The vast majority told me that they couldn't make it because it included more than one whole ingredient, which was an indicator to me that there's just something so wrong in this industry. And so that's when I did exactly what you said. I bought like a little confectionery silicone mold, and I got out my food processor, like a little Hamilton Beach food processor, and just threw anything in there that I thought a dog might like. And we got a lot more scientific and looped in experts over time. But really, I just stuck that first batch in my oven with things that I knew were safe for my dog at least, and saw how he responded.
Wow. So I assume Future Man now got like a lot of like samples and was a good tester for all of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. It is incredible too to see, I think, younger generations. I'm about to be 50, caring about their animals more than we did. When I first got a dog, I grew up with all kinds of animals living in Pennsylvania, pet pig, guinea pigs, rabbit. So, I had all of this, knowledge about animals, but then to actually become a pet owner and care so much about something that I was in charge of, especially without having kids, that is also happening with millennials and the next generation. Like you really see them giving a damn about their pet.
Yeah.
So for you, is that your like, what is your kind of your target audience? Obviously anybody that wants their dog to have, really clean, whole food, but do you kind of go towards these younger generations that really care about their pets?
Yeah, I think typically, I think you hit on a few trends there. Is one, these younger generations, my generation, I don't have any children. I'm 35. Future Man is the closest thing I have to it, and that's, there's all these cynical headlines in local newspapers about like young people are buying houses so that their dogs can have a yard, not their kids. And everyone's like mad at that for some reason. Right. But it's happening. I think the other is with new forms of media, Instagram, TikTok, etc. People are able to be more informed, sometimes not necessarily correctly informed, but more informed of this idea of, okay, wake up to what is healthy for your dogs. And then, so that's a market we've been able to capture. And then the third thing that I think, again, I'm not afraid to admit is, like the farmer's dog, for example, could certainly be considered a competitor of ours. If someone's feeding the farmer's dog and their dog is healthy and happy and they're doing well on it, I don't want them to stop necessarily, right? But I think it's been a service to the industry to have brands like Farmer's Dog put out Super Bowl commercials and pay so much for advertising to just show people that maybe hyper processed food isn't what we want to be giving our dogs for their whole lives. The lifestyle and cost of Farmer's Dog isn't right for me, but for the people it's right for, I'm happy for them. But again, I think there's just a tide shift in the industry that has given us two polarities of, there's the giant green bags of cheap food you get at the grocery store. There's this bougie, expensive frozen food you can order online. We're trying to provide something in the middle. It's resonated a lot with millennials. But really, I've been surprised by older generations too. A lot of people who will travel a lot, they'll spend half the year in Florida and half the year in Ohio, for example. A frozen food that they have to take back and forth doesn't really work for them. They've resonated with us providing a more holistic, natural, healthier option for their dogs that is again, just more convenient from my perspective.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, we haven't really talked about now, like the process and like what you offer. So tell everybody, because I'm like, now I'm going on there. I'm going to sign up. You like already told me, and I don't even know. But kind of tell us your process, because if people have never had dog food delivery service, it is a whole thing. I mean, you have to keep the things in the freezer till you're ready to use them. If you get, extras, or your dog gets sick and doesn't, like, there's just a lot that goes into it. So explain kind of how your process works.
Yeah. And I think for that frozen foods too, one thing that, again, I don't want to paint everyone as a bad actor, because I don't think they are bad actors, but they're just more prone to risk with, like, if you take it out and it's just meat. So if you have frozen meat and you thaw it and it doesn't get consumed in enough time, meat goes bad. Right. And to some degree, I agree food should go bad. But for like the lifestyle of a dog, or you think of a household with toddlers in it, if the dog doesn't clean the whole bowl, or if there's some meat that's left over, it's just meat sitting out has the possibility for more contamination. Right. So our approach then was, okay, so how do we take the best of this world that uses whole ingredients? We use, when I say whole ingredients too, I think this is something people don't understand, is there's not much oversight in what you can say on the front of a dog food bag. So you can have a big bouquet of spinach and carrots on the front of a dog food bag, and you flip it over and you learn how to read the ingredient panel, and it's like, oh, there's 0.02% spinach in here, right? Even though there's like a giant fresh leaf on the front, you realize there's a fraction of powdered spinach in this, and they're just painting the picture that they want for it, right? So our concept is, what if we were just really authentically motivated about using as many whole ingredients as we can in one food to give it a diverse flavor profile and a diverse nutrient profile, like diverse vitamin, mineral, and amino acid profile, by using multiple different ingredients, but make it as convenient for people as possible. So we do a gentle, multi-stage, slow cooking process that preserves as much of the natural flavor and nutrient profile as we can. Then we send it directly to you. And we do small batch production. And what that allows us to do is control when it arrives to you, how long ago were they whole ingredients, right? Because I think that's another issue with even some of the most well-intentioned retail first dog foods, is they've got to be prepared to sit on a shelf in a warehouse for 8 months or more, right? And if they're on the shelf for 8 months, the ingredients that they're using were powdered ingredients that could have been powdered 2 years ago, right? So by the time your dog eats that teaspoon of powdered spinach, it could be 3 years old. The direct-to-consumer approach allows us to control the freshness, is the main thing for us. So we don't ever freeze it or refrigerate it after it's cooked. We cook it, we gently air dry it, and then we send it out to our subscribers on a custom feeding schedule based on your dog's recommended calorie intake for their age, weight, and activity level. So that you don't also have to think like, okay, do I want it every 4 weeks or do I want it every 6 weeks? And I know my delivery's every 6 weeks, but in their calculator, they're giving me like the per meal price, like how much is this actually costing me? All that kind of stuff. We're just trying to cut out and present what really just the option that I wish I had for the whole life of my dog.
I mean, yeah, and it's just remarkable because it is a science. Like, that's the thing. It is important to have everything working properly to make sure that it's right. So I love that. And I'd like to ask this because, we know that you started in your kitchen mixing things in the blender. How big now? Like, how much staff do you have? Do you have like an actual facility?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So we're still a small team. We do have our own facility. We produce in Indianapolis. We have a dedicated kitchen, the Kibbies kitchen. We use a team of contractors that we've sourced for I made a giant spreadsheet of all the dog food brands that I was like, okay, I like at least 50% of the things about this one. And then I just looked for all the overlap. And that was how I made like our first formula 3 years ago. Since then, we've worked with contracted nutritionists and formulation experts to make sure that, it's more than just my best guess. And then we have about a 3-person production team in Indianapolis,
Wow.
cooking every match. I cannot recommend humans eat Kibbies legally, but we do taste every batch because we care. I mean, and our production manager is incredible. He will call me and be like, hey, I think something's a little off on this batch in our earlier iterations, because he's just cares so much about the quality of what's going into it.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's
he's
you need
incredible.
somebody like that in your corner, because growing, I mean, farm to pet, who does chicken chips locally here. It's a 1 ingredient chicken chip, which is like, why didn't anybody else think of that? But he, talking to Jackson, and I partnered with him with my nonprofit, starting at this warehouse in Chicago, and now has expanded. I got a tour of it, and just to see the people like making chicken chips, it's all, and they're making sure they're sized right, going into the back. Like, it is a whole thing. And I know it is so important to have people that you trust. It really is important, especially for a small business just starting out. And now I talk to Jackson, and he's like blown up. He barely has time for me. I'm like, don't forget I'm over here. No, but he's amazing. But yeah, I love what you're doing. I think it's so important. I think, like I said in the beginning, this is such like a hot button topic. And now, as unfortunately, the economy is crazy. So some people can barely afford dog food and things like that. But it is so important for your animals to live a healthy, happy life. And, I take in mostly senior pets, so I don't have a lot of time with them. But I think, like we said, it is never too late. It's never too late to turn a situation around. And then for the future, like I hate to ask this, because every time somebody asks me this, I barely know what I'm doing tomorrow. But can you see like 1 year, 5 years, can you see where you'll be?
No, I love that question. I had a professor of mine tell me that like a business course. He was like, you're onto a good idea if you think of the idea and you start losing sleep because you can't believe it doesn't exist in the world, right? Like, you just don't want to live in a world in which this thing does not exist. And that's not to say I'm super special or unique or have like the most, special ideas ever. But this is one that I am just so compelled to believe has to exist in the world. There's some other, competitors who are trying to do similar things too, and I applaud what they're doing. And I hope we see more like it. So for me, 1 year is getting the best food we can to the most dogs that we can, and 5 years is the same, and beyond that is the same, really.
Cool.
And I love our team too, like Daniel, our production manager, who I mentioned. We mill all our own grains in-house. We bring apples in from human grade restaurant supply stores. Like, we are doing so much stuff that I want to, and I'm proud to, and hope to get to show off more and more to people, because I think that's one of the biggest issues in this industry is the transparency. So I hope we can just really get our message out and show how dog food can be made, because no one else really wants you to know how they make your dog's food.
Yeah. Wow. What a quote. I wrote down a quote from earlier that I was going to use for keys. I'm like, but dang, that was nice too.
Part 2.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here. I love too what you said about, if you can't sleep, like knowing that would be gone.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And I do think competition kind of keeps a fire under you. It can be stressful, but when you think about all of these people probably, at their blenders now, like thinking about this, and you've done it, and now you're producing.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing. But thank you, Matthew Anderson from Kibbies. Here's the website. I mean, I'm probably signing up. I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean,
yeah.
And to have a one-on-one with the founder, not many people get to do that. So thank you for everybody for listening. Because this is some of the best knowledge you'll get about pet food from somebody that has been through all of it. So thank you, Matthew. Best wishes to you. And I hope that we can partner together. Obviously, you touched my soul talking about animals with cancer, Live Like Rue. That's what we focus on. And that's how I was introduced to Matthew, is a mutual friend of ours who sees, a good partnership there. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sarah. My email address is matthew@kibbies.co. If anyone has questions, again, I want people to feed the best food to their dogs for their dogs. So even if it's not Kibbies, if people want to reach out, I will. If I don't know the answer, I'll try and help them find it to find the best match for them. So
See that
Matthew@kibbies.co. Just shoot me an email, anyone, if you have questions.
That's a good business owner right there who actually cares. That's great. I love that. Thank you, Matthew.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sarah.
Awesome. You guys aren't going to get better knowledge than that anywhere. This podcast has been rocking and rolling lately, and thank you to our supporting sponsors. Thank you to our supporting sponsors. On the corner of Montrose and Troy in Chicago's Irving Park neighborhood, you'll find a hidden gem known as Templestowe Pub. They have a great selection of local draft beers, and the Malort is always flowing. Oh, no. Join us for a charity bingo event or a tap takeover with a local brewery. Don't want to leave your dog at home? All good, bring them along. Whether you're throwing darts or playing a banger on the jukebox, you're guaranteed to have an awesome time. So head on over to 3135 West Montrose and look for the old style sign. The Canine PT is Chicago's highest rated dog physical therapy clinic, and they're dedicated to enhancing the lives of your four-legged companions as they age or when recovering from an injury. Give the gift of pain relief to your furry friend. They also offer a discount for rescue dogs. For more information, visit thecaninepT.com. Intuitive animal behavior dog training, positive reinforcement, force-free, and fear-free training solutions for every dog. Jenna offers individualized training, behavioral boarding, shelter support, and positive reinforcement board and train services. Creating an environment that is happy and healthy for your pets is so important. For more information, go to intuitiveanimalbehavior.com. Thank you, sponsors. Thank you so much to Matthew from Kibbies. Thank you, everyone, for listening and watching. I really appreciate it. Bye-bye.